wanted to play this. Last week, it broke. If you're here, I hit it and came apart in the beginning maybe, and then I come back and it's whole again. Not by magic. Roten, who's an artist, found some glue. I can barely see where it was done. But it sounds a lot better. Do you notice? I mean, there's a Dharma lesson. It won't sound good unless it breaks first. And gets fixed. It needs the fixing as well, okay? Don't forget that step. Otherwise, yes, it is just broken. The truth of dukkha, the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha's first truth, the turning of the wheel after the Buddha's enlightenment started with the statement of dukkha, difficulty, suffering, pain, dissatisfaction, however we want to try to phrase it. Is just inherent in the human condition. And that means it's not like an original sin, but it is original brokenness. It's just the state of things is that they are in dissolution. They are, coming apart as they arise. There's arising and there's a dispersal. That everything, conditions come together, and they change, and the conditions then no longer exist for the wholeness that was, creates a brokenness or a dissolution. Maybe the conditions arose to have life, and then the conditions changed, and then the life ends. Or, this wore out, and then broke, and then new conditions came by, like in the form of somebody with glue. It fixed, and it, changed the sound. And that process is unending. It's just unending. It can't stop. It won't stop. It doesn't stop. How do we fit in with that? What's our place in that change? So we can call dukkha one thing, but there's another thing to call dukkha, and it's impermanence. If we understand impermanence, we understand that it's also describing dukkha, the state of dissatisfaction, which is our mental and personal relationship to change. Dukkha is the relationship to change that causes us stress. Change is change, it happens. We interpret it in a way that creates some pain and some suffering. So when we can see our relationship to the change more clearly, then we can start to wonder, is it absolutely given that this is not good? Or should we practice the paramita of patience? And one of the great qualities of patience, and just give it time and see what emerges, what happens. In the end, it might be a better, wooden bell, or it might just be firewood, and then we use it for fire. So we should aspire at times to gain simply what's called perspective. And the perspective of not just, we have this moment, but we also have the whole continuum of causes and conditions, what's called karma, that comes together and changes everything that we're experiencing. So how can we hold those two together? There's this moment, that is unique. And there's the constant flow of all the changing conditions that are causing this moment to emerge and then change. What I'm describing is the process and the practice of sitting. Sitting is observing that happening real time. Our meditation is bearing witness to that arising and dispersal, moment by moment, that reality of anicca, of impermanence, in our very bodies and minds, and in our environments. So that's what we're cultivating, is that sense of being able to be with. And just sitting for half an hour is in itself the practice of patience, is the paramita of patience. We're cultivating a certain forbearance. Forbearance, the ability to be with something when it's not always pleasant. Your meditation for the past hour probably had some moments of, comfort and moments of discomfort. The practice is to be with it both ways and neither. So what I wanted to just question tonight is, what is this practice of meditation, zazen, and what are its fruits? What are the fruits of meditation? Are we experiencing the fruits of meditation? We who are...
Can someone turn the heat off? It's really hard to hear.
Hard to hear, yeah. It's a buzz. You can almost feel yourself in an auditory way relax. Like an auditory relaxation. You don't realize how much environmental noise there is. We call it white noise, but that's kind of not. I think it's sort of more like dark gray noise. Yeah, it's not white. It's like if you have an old refrigerator and then it clicks off. It's like, wow, that's nice. Until it gets cold. So meditation, zazen, what is it good for? You sit, you may have a committed practice, and you may do it every day, and you may have read texts that exhort you not to expect anything. You shouldn't be expecting anything in your zazen. I'll read a few passages, especially Suzuki Roshi. A lot of the teachers, especially in the Zen tradition, are very clear about not going into this practice with what is called a gaining mind. A gaining mind. There's one teacher. Here's how he put it. Kurosawaki Roshi. What is zazen good for? It's good for nothing. As long as this good-for-nothing practice does not penetrate our bones, and we really practice what is good for nothing, it won't be good for anything. We need to sit with a fully non-intention that we're trying to get anything out of it. And then it'll be good for something. Now that paradox is at the heart of the practice of being able to be here and bear witness without wanting to change what you're observing. Because then you're getting into the judging mind. There's a mind that looks at your thoughts, at your environment, and starts to say, it would be better if. And there's no end to those thoughts. Does that mean we shouldn't have those thoughts? No, you should. It's how we try to improve things in ourselves and in the world. But not during Zazen. You see, during meditation, if you're involved in all those thoughts and you're making a list of all the things you want to change, like number 1, I'm going to turn off the air conditioner. Number 2, I'm going to clean up. Number 3, you can make a list in your mind of things that will make it all right. You'll do those, and for some reason it doesn't turn out. What happened? During meditation, we need to be purposeless. Outside of meditation, we need to be purposeful. Can you suspend ulterior motives and the active gaining mind, the self building mind when you sit? And when it happens and it comes up that you're having a lot of thoughts about the meaning of my life, or just my day, or what I need to do tomorrow, or just after meditation, or during meditation, can we observe those thoughts too, without criticism, judgment, and a sense of, I'm not doing this right? Can you open up the sphere of your awareness so that it's all-encompassing, which is called equanimity? Here's what Suzuki Roshi says. If you continue with this simple practice every day, you will obtain some wonderful power. Before you attain it, it's a wonderful power. But after you attain it, it's not something special. It's just you, yourself, nothing special. It's a kind of mystery that for people who have no experience of enlightenment, enlightenment is something wonderful. But if they attain it, it's nothing. Although it is nothing, it is not nothing. Do you understand? Now, of course, until we get reach some level of awakening, we won't understand. And then when we do, we'll probably realize that we understood all along, or maybe not. But he's expressing that paradox, again, in a slightly different way. We have a lot of expectations, they're normal. We enter into a practice thinking, yeah, it's going to be good for me. Otherwise, why would you do something, Be kind of like, I don't know, I can rub this and nothing's going to happen. So why do I keep doing it? Well, at some point I'll stop. But during meditation, I have sometimes the same experience. Only it's sitting instead of rubbing the cloth. Still nothing's happening. But still I continue to do it. Why would I continue doing something when nothing much is happening? Because there have been times, and you know it, and everybody who does continue with the practice has touched a quiet and opened up a sense of depth, of listening, even non-self. When the burden has just been put down for maybe a second, that you have to be somebody special. And that being able to let go of the somebody special, then is special. That's the paradox. You let go of needing to be somebody, and then who you are is special. This is a paradox that we won't resolve in our minds. It simply is the activity of sitting itself. It's not an argument or a debate to have, even with yourself. Why do I do it? Is it working? Is something happening? There are technical things that we need to, correct, perhaps, in meditation. If your posture's not, sort of straight or relaxed, pain is going to develop, and that will create an obstacle long term. If you find yourself too tense or too loose, you'll be dreamy or you'll be too agitated and judging. So you got to find the middle way, and those are technical approaches. And I say even the mental ones are technical, because it's learning how to observe your experience, not get caught up in it, but not forget about it. See, how can you observe what you're thinking and what you're feeling without going into those thoughts and letting the flow continue? But not just go for a ride and drift along a lazy river, dreaming. So those are the two sides of a mental approach that we need to find the balance in. One of being a little too, pointed, and one of being too dreamy. And that's what you need to look at in your own observing mind. Am I aware and alert, but not like really grasping? Is my concentration there, but it's not a critical concentration or an analytical concentration? It's a gentle one. Can I maintain gentleness and yet stay focused? Can I accept, but not just, invite? So these are the attitudes that each practitioner needs to wonder and observe in his or her own mind. What does it cultivate? What does it develop? A special practice? Nothing special? I want to go to Master Dogen. Now, if you look up meditation while you meditate, you shouldn't look up in Zen, because they don't give you a lot of encouragement. But when I look up in general meditation, what is meditation good for? I found some really encouraging sites, benefits of meditation. Quite inspiring. I found one that had 72 qualities and benefits that meditation will give you. All sorts of things, from helping prevent diseases, prevent aging, greater cognitive, gray matter, your brain changes, all sorts of MRI scans to prove all this. Athletic, increased ability, of course the concentration, the focus, anti-aging. It was all great. I mean, a lot of really good stuff. I tend to turn the page and move on, because all of it is coming, and all of it that is very research-based. A lot of the research methods are iffy, I'll say, but it's coming from a very popular attitude that we need to scientifically prove the value of our spiritual practice. And it's not just scientifically prove it, but it's mechanistic. It's wanting to sort of map out the brain and show that I'm kind of, I'm improving myself. The problem is it's still about self. It's still about me, and having some proof that I'm getting better, especially if I can see a picture of my brain and it looks better. There were a few studies that looked into how compassion is effective. Now, those are nice, but those are harder to, you can say, prove. Those are harder to prove. But that's really where the heart of the practice is. It's in the kind of heart that you can't necessarily map out and prove, especially on an MRI. So, if we want to find some meaning in our practice, and we're not necessarily finding it on the cushion all the time, which for many of us, is most of the time, not necessarily finding it. Some of the traditional sources really do help. And I'd like to read a bit from Dogen and Hakuin. So when Dogen talks about Zazen, and he has an essay called On the Endeavor of the Way, the Bendawa. So, on the endeavor of the way, he's not talking about the way, but he's talking about how we aspire, what kind of energy we put into the way. And we do need encouragement for that. Right? The Sangha and meeting together is encouragement. But on your own, during the week, where do you find the encouragement to do your practice? It's an important question. We need to find encouragement where we can and seek it out and look for it. Here's what Dogen says. When even for a moment you sit upright in samadhi, expressing the Buddha's seal in the activities of body, speech, and thought, the whole world becomes the Buddha's seal and the entire sky turns into enlightenment. It's very inspiring and also very far from what we can relate to. But he's not writing fiction. Dogen is writing and giving talks to his students and to his monks in what he really considered experience. What really was the experience for him. And it was not just a blind faith, but in Dogen Zen and Dogen Zazen, to sit for one moment is to open up the whole universe. The amazing thing, though, is it's not something we need to necessarily be self-centeredly conscious of, because that would be then making the universe into you. What am I aware of here? Is it about so much what you're aware of when you get up from the cushion and you feel like you've had a great meditation? This is why Dogen is talking in a really big way, because he knows we're not going to experience that. But still he writes it. So why does he write it? And then how is it inspiring? Let me continue a bit. Furthermore, all beings in the phenomenal world, including all the upper and lower paths, at once attain pure body and mind, realize the state of great emancipation, and manifest the original face. At this moment, all things actualize correct awakening. Myriad objects are the Buddha's body, sitting upright. They leap beyond the boundary of awakening. Immediately all things turn unsurpassably the great Dharma wheel and expound the profound wisdom, ultimate and unconditioned. Because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles of the phenomenal world in the 10 directions all engage in Buddha activity, those who receive the benefits of wind and water are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's transformations, splendid and unthinkable, and intimately manifest enlightenment. All this, however, does not appear within perception. That's the killer line. All of this enlightenment is not about something you perceive. So why do we do it if I don't perceive it? What is the point of doing this practice if I'm not going to have enlightenment that I can actually, manifest, be aware of, and live in my daily life? There was I watched a documentary, a short documentary. It was a 15-minute thing on the Atlantic site, and it was called Being 97. It was a man took a film of his grandfather, who was a retired philosophy professor in California, UC Santa Barbara. And he taught philosophy for 40 years. Now he's 97, and he's puttering around his house with a helper. His wife died a few years ago. Many books to his name. Mind as clear as a bell. The guy is talking, and part of the topics he wrote about during his career was about death and the sort of existential fear of death that so many have. He claimed in his writings that it was an irrational fear because it's a fear of how can you fear something you don't know? It's not rational to fear what you don't know. It's just irrational. And then as he approached now his 100th year, he started to worry. And he realized perhaps I was wrong. And he said he spent a lot of time walking around the house. And you saw him walking on his walker, wondering to himself, what's the point of it all? And I thought it was so touching. Here is a 97-year-old man, spent his whole life exploring the meaning of existence. And at the end of it, he's wondering. And happy to share. What's the point? And his answer was, it's a foolish question. But I will share with you a bit more of what he said further on as it continued. He said, sitting on my deck, when we saw him sitting on his porch and it was all green, looking at the green. Sitting on my deck, seeing the trees blowing in the wind. Trees I've seen innumerable times. But this time they're so beautiful. And I feel I really appreciate them. It brings tears to my eyes. It's been in the same house for half a century. Doesn't need to have a point. And even to say that's the point is to miss the point. Perhaps it's not so much that we go out seeking wisdom when we sit, but rather wisdom seeks us. We don't sit in order to become enlightened, but rather enlightenment becomes us. We don't change who we are. Who we are changes us. So I want to end with a few verses from a famous poem that Hakuin, the 18th century Zen master from Kyoto, who really reinvigorated the whole tradition of koans. Lots of stories about Hakuin. Really important figure, and he wrote a poem called The Song of Zazen. All beings are by nature Buddha, as ice by nature is water. Apart from water, there is no ice. Apart from beings, no Buddha. How sad that people ignore the near and search for truth afar. Like someone in the midst of water crying out in thirst. Like a child of a wealthy home wandering among the poor. Lost on dark paths of ignorance, we wander through the world, from dark path to dark path. Oh, when shall we be free? Oh, the Zazen to this, the highest. All the qualities of the Paramitas have their source in Zazen. Those who try Zazen even once wipe away beginningless sins. The Pure Land itself is here. Those who hear this truth even once and listen with a grateful heart, treasuring it, gain blessings without end. Much more. Here, effect and cause are the same. The way is not 2 or 3. Going and coming, we are never lost. Bright the full moon of wisdom. Truly, is anything missing right now? Nirvana is right here before our eyes. This very place is the Lotus Land. This very body, Buddha. As Dogen said, this is not within the realm of perception. It's within the reality of being. So we should sit with that.